Good morning. This is Things You Might Have Heard, and we're going to present for you in mere moments the yesterday's latest in information, politics, current events, and pop cultures as per you telling us what to talk about. We are your go-to source as a supplemental source. There you go. For both mainstream and unconventional news, things that got missed in the mainstream, and things that get a little bit of extra context that might be a little different from the mainstream points, plus some weird ones as well. We're glad to have you with us. You pick the stories. You literally pick the stories by going to our feeds on Facebook and Twitter. We use our social media to let you tell us what stories are what we say conversational. It's worth talking about. We will post new stories every 50 minutes, and we'll explain that after we do the headline, so you'll know the full effect. But you literally put the words into my mouth. Oh, my name, Jay Cleveland Payne. 8 stories come up this morning, and of course, one of those stories per our teaser graphic is stories on the Titan Submersible now being unsubmersed, pun sort of intended, and what we're finding from that so far, plus 7 other stories that you deemed were cool. So we're going to get to those in mere moments. Let me remind you, or let you know, either way, you can go to our website. This is a conversationproject.com and see more about what we do to make these things happen, and just things we do in general, and find out more about us, because we like to chat about us, but we want less chat in the actual reports every morning. This morning, it's Thursday, 29th of June, 2023. Let's get to the stories vetted by you, curated by me for this morning. And the first story is this one, as per the teaser graphic. Titan submersible photos show wreckage being brought ashore. Now, this was the essentially the first one we pulled out there from first issue. What we know from the wreckage, which they found and were able to bring up pretty easily, pretty simply, is that they also found human remains, and so those remains are being sent to be examined to see exactly who they are. Essentially, we are assuming they are the 5 people that were on board the actual submersible. They're going to do what they can to identify them, and that will bring some closure to the families of the people who perished in this accident, because at first they believed there would be no way to recover any bodies, any human remains from the bottom of the ocean floor, very, very deep. But it seems like they have been able to, so they'll have that also as part of their investigation to figure out what happened. Of course, the submersible imploded fairly soon after getting nearby the wreckage site, nearby the site of the actual wreckage of the Titanic, and the wreckage was found about 4 days later. The Coast Guard found some semblance of an implosion, some sign of implosion early on, or I should say the military did in one of their sub listening devices, and then they spent the next 4 days trying to find them, hoping for the best, and unfortunately, that's not what we had. Another story of tragedy. Amtrak train with 198 passengers derails after colliding with vehicle in Southern California. Now, luckily, no one was actually seriously hurt in this one, but a train carrying about 200 people struck a water truck and derailed in Southern California on yesterday. No major injuries. 8 people transported to hospitals with minor injuries. Train derailed after hitting a water truck, obstructing the tracks, and most passengers were able to exit the train on their own without any aid from any responders. And as reported many times, because we need to know these things, no reports of serious injuries. The train struck a water truck, obstructing the tracks, and was evacuated with no reports of serious injuries. There's a lot of that in the robot editing today. Crews were able to quickly douse the small fire from the train. Now, the possible actor strike, would add on to injury for what's going on with the writers. Of course, without any writers, you can't legally write new stuff for programming. Without any actors, and they hadn't quite figured out the uncanny valley of the AI yet, you can't really act in most of these things. Jennifer Lawrence, A-list actors threatened to strike in letter to SAG, Screen Actors Guild. This is from Yahoo News, who got it from somewhere, probably from Rolling Stone, looks like. They voted to authorize a strike if their negotiating committee doesn't reach an agreement with major Hollywood studios by June the 30th. That's tomorrow. However, more than 300 actors signed a letter urging SAG not to settle for a deal that doesn't represent all their demands. One of those names, of course, Jennifer Lawrence, also including folks like Meryl Streep, Rami Malek, Quinta Brunson, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Ben Stiller, Neil Patrick Harris, Amy Schumer, and Amy Poehler as well. SAG-AFTRA, remember, signed a letter saying that they're prepared to strike if it comes to that, and addressed a number of issues, including minimum pay, residuals that considered the growth of streaming healthcare, pensions, regulations around new self-tapes, regulations around how self-tapes are used in casting processes. And this goes really deeper, and it's basically the same thing the writers are fighting for as well. The change in the landscape of how media is created, how it's sold, how it's bought, how it's consumed, is changing the way people get paid. Writers are a bit more susceptible because you don't know who most of them are. Actors on the big end, they get big money, but does not necessarily mean they're getting the best deals. And actors on the small end are usually not getting big money or very good deals at all. We shall see if the actors go on strike to not so much support the writers, but basically do their own thing, support the actual industry and its breakdown right now. Madonna postpones tour after being hospitalized for serious bacterial infection, manager says. Full recovery expected. Both of those things in quotes said by her manager. Apparently on Saturday, Madonna was admitted to intensive care unit and was basically due to a bacterial infection. She was never in serious harm, you would say, but we do know that she was in the hospital. She's still hospitalized right now, recovering from that thing. What's going to happen from that? Right now, the only real repercussion is the fact that her world tour is going to be paused or postponed for just a bit going forward. Now, everyone is basically ready for Madonna to get back on tour. It's one of those things that us people, as we get older, the way you kind of reconnect with your youth or just your more vibrant days is to do things that remind you of that. Madonna, who of course is not very young anymore, still doing the young stuff and hanging out with young people, especially a lot of kids she has. So she's doing that vibe thing, and a lot of folks who have creaky backs and kind of knees that are tricky are going to go see Madonna on stage and do her thing because it's what we do. That world tour being postponed, we'll see when it gets back into the swing of things. Set to kick off in Vancouver in July and end in December in Amsterdam. We'll see how the dates get shifted because we'll be back pretty soon, but not quite for a July Vancouver date. Let's sneak in some Trump today. Donald Trump sues E.G. Carroll. There's a twist. Claims she defamed him on television. So, a New York jury found Trump liable for sexually abusing Carroll, but not for her alleged rape, and Carroll was awarded $5 million in damages. Of course, there's other pending things, including other lawsuits, which are the same old lawsuits, which may get her more money in damages and may actually press the button to make this whole thing go away. That's never happening, but it may happen. It's on the docket. She made statements that, quote, with actual malice and ill will and intended to harm his reputation, so says Trump in a lawsuit. He is seeking compensatory and legal fees, as he would. Carroll's attorney and the Trumps said that Trump's claim is an attempt to delay accountability for defamation, but added that accountability will come very soon. Carroll's attorney said Trump was exactly her type and didn't show up at this civil trial accusing him of rape because he, quote, knows what he did to her, unquote. We shall move on from that and go on to this one. Violent protest in Paris suburb after teen is shot dead by police during a traffic stop. I'm going to editorialize a bit right here because this is one that got kind of weird. One, the story was updated, and we got in this story here, the actual reading of it from the morning when we pulled it down, details about a Colin Mbappe, who's a French soccer player who hurts for my France as the shooting of the teenager happened, and of course, all sort of riots broke out. Now, this is an oddity because Mbappe is a dark-skinned black person who I believe is actually an immigrant from an African country. Maybe he was born there, maybe not. But one of the weirder things about the French soccer teams, the one that won the World Cup last time, is most of them were Arab and African folks that just sort of play in France. And this is an African folk who plays in France and is hurting for the fact that a young black teenager was shot essentially for no reason at a traffic stop. Something, unfortunately, we see a lot here, as in the U.S., and now we know that some of these same tensions are more or less exactly as bad as they are in places like France. France does have some issues that are well documented with some racial tensions, if you will, so France is not so surprising that this would happen. But it is surprising to see it happen in some place that's not here. We had the summer of black people getting shot a few years back, and now it looks like it's going to be a bit of a tension going in this one. A second day of protests actually went through for this incident, so look for more news on this one coming forward. Speaking of nostalgia and old music and old musicians, let's talk about Billy Joel, or specifically his hit single "We Didn't Start the Fire." Fall Out Boy covers Billy Joy's. I can't do this today. Fall Out Boy covers Billy Joel's "We Didn't Start the Fire," and people have mixed feelings. Some of the notable happenings and major headlines at the time period that were mentioned goes between 1989 and 1923. So not quite as deep and a little bit further past than the original song, because the timeline of the life of people in Fall Out Boy different from Billy Joel. And of course, it's an update to the song. I've not heard the song, but they released it on Instagram yesterday, and the Twitter was all into it, as Twitter would be. Some people dug it. Some people dug into it, saying that some of the newsworthy events weren't all that newsworthy, and they had a hard time trying to find things to rhyme with other things that may or may not have been. Check it out for yourself. I'm going to find some time to pull it up today so I can get to listen to it and see what you think about "We Didn't Start the Fire," the Fall Out Boy edition, not the Billy Joel edition. Big fan of Fall Out Boy, although I often confuse them with Panic! In the Disco, and I have to admit that very often. I obviously often confuse the two sounds, the two players, bands. But big fan of Fall Out Boy. Loved it when they did the thing with Jimmy Kimmel with Fall Out Boys to Men, when they grouped up Boys to Men. That was a fun night, so watching that happen. And wrapping up on this morning, we go to Simone Biles doing amazing things, amazingly coming back to work, if you will. Returning to competition in August for the first time since Tokyo Games. Simone Biles will compete at the U.S. Classic, that's what it's called, in August 5th alongside Suna Lee, who won the gold at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. Biles spent most of the last 2 years away from gymnastics after she removed herself from 5 of 6 finals at the Tokyo Games. She returned to win a bronze medal in the balance beam final. Biles says she was keeping the door open for a return in 2024 Olympics, but first she needed some time to absorb everything she's been through. Of course, a lot of things happening going on. Of course, there's the big old trial of the that sentenced the trainer from doing very bad things to many of the gymnasts. There's her getting married. There's cool like that. Her, now basically being an NFL wife. So there you go. And now she's going back to work herself, getting back in the swing of things. And congratulations, and hopefully doing well in August. And maybe she'll be out there to show some flair at the Tokyo Games. We shall see. Now to our teaser story for this morning. This is a story that we could chat up tomorrow if you deem it worthy of chatting up tomorrow. And that's simply done by going to our feeds on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook.com/This Is a Conversation Project and Twitter.com/TH_conversation. When you go to those sites and checking out what's going on there, you just like, love, hate, share, engage, be a part of the engagement for the stories on those sites. We get a score based off the engagement because it's a part of the metrics that you get from those sites, and we take those scores, put them together, and give you a top to bottom. And tomorrow on Friday, we'll give you 8 more stories from the top 15 stories you chose today. So give us your thoughts, and we'll give you what your thoughts were mostly. If what we think about this one though, Jonathan Majors files complaint against ex-girlfriend over arrest. Jonathan Majors is dealing with some issues. He was arrested over a domestic dispute, essentially, by an ex-girlfriend, which has got him in hot water and maybe being face blanked out of Marvel movies. He himself is now filing a complaint against the ex-girlfriend over the arrest for causing all the issues to his life. This is an extremely deep and complicated story, so read the story, get into the story. And if you want to chat up Jonathan Majors and how he may or may not be ruining the Marvel Universe, although the Marvel Universe seems to be doing a pretty good job of ruining itself right now, check it out, and you can engage in this one by engaging in it and telling us if we're chatting this one up tomorrow. It's literally that simple. Now we're going to move on to the sponsors for the day. Today we're going to highlight sponsor Blinkist. Blinkist is a long-time sponsor to all the things we've been doing for More Better Media, and a long-time app I've been using even before the sponsorship began. Many of these things that we use for sponsors that we partner up with are things that I actually use, so that makes them even easier to talk about because I use them. It's one of those things. It's a real testimonial because it's a real testimony for me. Blinkist is an app that allows you to catch up on your books, nonfiction and autobiographies that could usually take a couple hours. Unabridged things that may be 19 hours. I think The guy that writes, the art of seduction, all those things. I think his books are all really really long. Instead of taking 19 hours to read them or listen to them on full audio, which I have done, you can listen to them in less than 30 minutes if it's a long one, or maybe 15 minutes for a normal book. They're also written blinks, all the big headlines, all the actual meat and potatoes of the stuff, not the parsley, not any the little sprinklings on the side, not the little funny stuff they put on for make the plate looks pretty. Actual beef for you right there in the Blinkist app. You can read them, listen to them, or read and listen to them in a short amount of time. Catch up on the books you've been missing in about 15 minutes for most cases. Go to thisistheconversationproject.com/Blinkist. This is theconversationproject.com/Blinkist, Blinkist, and sign up today. This is a link for an affiliate link, so if you sign up, we get something back for that. So in order for us to get paid, you've got to actually use it. So that's how it works. If you think it's a good app, keep it, and we will be taken care of, and it costs you nothing extra. Check it out. You can get 7 days for free, and set up a Blinkist space so people that don't actually have the Blinkist app can share with you Blinkist books, and you have your own little book clubs. That's an awesome thing to do right there. Let's go to another awesome thing, that is us. We're going to talk about us because we're awesome. We are the Conversation Project, and we live at this. It's theconversationproject.com, and you can help us be more awesome by following us on our feeds and telling us what stories to talk about, and sharing the feeds and the videos and the podcasts and the newsletters to the folks out there so we have more people engaged in our conversation. If you think all that stuff is good to do and you want to do a little bit extra, consider going to our partnerships page at our website and partnering up with us directly. Find ways that you can directly partner up with us so that we can keep things going here. Get more people involved behind the scenes to make things work a little easier. Get things more involved so we can reach out to more people and just do stuff around here. We're going to work on our subscription service via Buy Me Coffee, so I'm waiting for the swag to show up so that we can have more gifts and have more things to give to people who are hanging out with us doing great stuff. But in the meantime, we're going to just do what we're going to do regardless. If you want to help us out, check out the partnerships page, see if there's something you'd like to do to help out the cause. And so, just because, we're going to go to the fun stuff for today, because we got to get some fun stuff after all that sort of heavy stuff in the news. Starting off with birthdays on this 29th of June. Gary Busey turning 79 years old today. Gary Busey turning 79 feels like he may have lost a bet in the over-under, but hey, he's still doing it, still making things happen at 79 years old on the day. Fred Grandy, your ship's purser and former congressman, is 75 years old on today. Happy birthday to Mr. Grandy. And Colin Jost, who bought a boat while he was high and had to explain it to his wife and doesn't know what's going on with the boat. Of course, a star on Saturday Night Live and some other things out there, and bought the boat with Pete Davidson. 41 years old on the day. Let's move on to today in history. So history for today, the 29th of June. Going back to 2007, the first Apple iPhones went on sale. So this is a reminder that even though our phones, and I have an iPhone around here someplace because I carry too many phones, are ubiquitous, our smartphones are ubiquitous, they're not that old. Blackberries are essentially 25 years old, and the iPhones are essentially about 15 years old. 25 may be pushing it a bit, but Blackberries and smartphones in their past due was there, but now Apple iPhones would essentially set the pace for how smartphones have to look like, have to be, what they have to do. Those have only been around since 2007. In 2009, financier Bernard Madoff received a 150-year sentence for his multi-million-dollar fraud. One of the largest fraud deals in the nation. One guy getting a lot of people's money and just basically blowing it, basically running his own Ponzi scheme, as many have done. Had this happen on this day in 2009. Also, bad guy getting charged with bad things. R. Kelly was sentenced to 30 years in sex trafficking case in 2022. That was only, of course, last year. There are still more cases pending. Some more weirdness going on in that case. So it's hard to understand exactly what's going on, but those cases that R. Kelly was dealing with, a lot of issues, were brewing for quite a bit. Actual sentencing after conviction happened on this day last year. Today, your June 29th celebration day is Bomb Pop Day. And bomb pops are, as we used to say back in the day, the bomb. Go out there on these extremely hot days here we're having right now, like extreme heat temperatures all over the place, and get out there and enjoy a bomb pop. I can't say it's 0 calories because it's basically frozen sugar water, if you will. So there's something to that. But bomb pops, the red, white, and blue, especially as it's coming into the 4th of July, are delicious. They're awesome. You can't not beat them. Now, my daughter will go for, otter pops because, she doesn't know any better. But bomb pops, mostly because you have to do some effort to go find them. Otter pops, you put in the freezer and they're there forever, and you can just let them sit there forever. Bomb pops take a little bit more extra effort. You only come in packs of 4, things like that. But get out there and have yourself a bomb pop on this hot, hot day here in the States. And if you're down under, I'm sure they have bomb pops on the other hemisphere. Ice cream in the wintertime is awesome. Get you a bomb pop. Enjoy yourself. One more thing you might not have heard, July 4th, which I already brought up, is the most popular holiday for beer sales. Makes sense. It's also a big one for snacks, especially potato chips. And what are America's top potato chip flavors? Sorry to disappoint, the number one flavor is plain old potato chips. Tastes like potatoes, that's the number one. Number 2 happens to be barbecue. Number 3 is spicy, something like jalapeno style or a hot sauce style. Number 4 is salt and vinegar. People seem to think no one likes them, but guess what? They're the 4th top option, and they beat out number 5, which I thought would be higher, sour cream and onion. So there you go. Plain potato chips. If you don't like them, you can stick it. And with that, you can stick around for a little bit, but we are done for today with our main batch of news. Today was Thursday, June 29th, 2023. Technically, it still is as I'm speaking these words. I'm Jay Cleveland Payne, bringing you the best stories that I can from what you want to talk about here on the Conversation Project. And as we say when we explain the feeds every morning, it's very simple. You just go to our feeds on Facebook and Twitter and you tell me what stories you want to chat about. It's just like that. I'm posting new stories every 50 minutes on those feeds, and you engage in them throughout the day. And come 4 in the morning, Central Time every morning, it is, we pull the stats and put them all together and start to build this thing up. We're going to take the top 15 stories from today's edition, the excursion, if you will, and give you 8 of them like we do every single Tuesday through Friday. On Monday, we're going to go to the top 30 stories of the full weekend. There's 3 days plus a couple hours, and give you 10 of those stories repeated back. If you enjoy what we're doing, follow us on our feeds. Let us know what we're doing as well. Email me at jclevelandpayne@gmail.com, or email the show, which will be easier to see, at theconversationinbox@gmail.com, and let me know how we're doing, what we're not doing well, and what we can improve on, and what we should maybe bring back. Some things we did some things on, and I hear repeats that we should try these things again. We are more than willing to try them out for you guys as well. Anybody that popped up live, we thank you so much. If you're watching the replay, let us know where you are, what you're watching it on, and how we're doing, and prepare for another great day. Now we have a big weekend. Some people are getting 4 days, as many folks are getting the Monday off before the 4th, which is of course on Tuesday, because it's weird in the middle to go to have a day off, or go to work, have a day off, and go to work 3 days. So we're preparing for that. But we will be here both Monday and Tuesday to give you this, because I do this from my house and I'm a glutton for punishment. There you go. In the meantime, let's get ready for Friday. Let's not overlook Friday. Let's not try to overstep and prepare for a holiday when we hadn't got to Friday yet. And Thursday, because today is Thursday. Enjoy your Thursday. Be productive. Be good. Stay hydrated, limber, and on task for all the grand things you're here to do. And we'll see you folks tomorrow.